When Christians think of Buddhism, they usually picture breathing meditation, sitting cross-legged, and maybe doing some kind of throaty chanting. And while that's partially true, it doesn't even scratch the surface of what Buddhism really is about. Today in this video, I want to show you exactly how Buddhism is actually highly complementary to Christianity and can be extremely useful as a tool in spiritual warfare. So welcome to my channel, The Agape of Zen, where I talk about how you can apply Buddhist wisdom in your spiritual journey, using as little jargon as possible. So let's get started. The end goal of Buddhism is to live in a state of desirelessness or equanimity, which to many Christians doesn't sound either possible or even like a good goal to have. After all, Job definitely wasn't very happy during his trials. So how is Buddhism related to Christianity, and why would it even be useful to a Christian? The answer to that lies in why Buddhists strive for desirelessness. The true core of Buddhism is about consciously knowing what you want and being able to live without it. It's surrender, not only to live a happier life, but much more importantly, to learn how to love truly unconditionally. The real selfless compassion of Jesus requires complete desirelessness, and I'll illustrate why. Sin actually comes from desire or selfish craving. Hearing this, most Christians might hesitate to agree, but let me explain. First, we have to consider what sin really is. Sins are thoughts and actions in rebellion from God, but God is love, unconditional love. So in other words, sins are thoughts and actions that separate you from being able to love unconditionally. And so, take envy for example. In an otherwise healthy relationship, envy over someone, let's say getting a new job or traveling a lot on vacation, can give rise to a lot of bitter feelings, which is obvious. And those bitter feelings can make someone go cold on their friend, and that separates them from being able to love them unconditionally, even under the condition that their friend is successful. However, what is the root of an envious thought? The answer to this is the critical connection between Christianity and Buddhism. Envy, at its core, is your desire to have what another person has. It's desire. And just to make sure that this connection between sin and desire is clear, pride stems from a desire for social status or recognition above other people. Greed stems from the desire for more money or material. Gluttony and lust stem from the desires for sensual pleasures. Wrath stems from the desire for vengeance. And lastly, sloth stems from the desire for ease or repose, even at the expense of doing God's will. Now, I only said that sin stems from desire, it's rooted in it. However, the real act of sin is not being able to let go of those desires. Sin is putting your selfish cravings above the way that you treat other people. So, someone who is greedy is not only someone who has strong material desires. A lot of people have strong material desires, but they're not greedy. What makes someone greedy is the pursuit of their desire above other people's welfare. So they'll tear you down or stab you in the back to fulfill their desire for more money, right? If there's a promotion at stake, they'll stab you in the back to make you look bad in front of your boss, for example. That desire for that promotion and not being able to let go of that desire is the nature of where sin begins. If they were able to let go of their desire for wealth, they would also be able to consider the other person's welfare. However, not only does attachment to your desires make you go out of your way to harm other people, it also separates you from loving unconditionally because it tricks you into believing that you are loving someone truly when you're actually acting only out of your own self-interest. Just look at what happens when you don't fulfill someone's desires. A sinful husband, for example, might give his wife the cold shoulder if she doesn't take care of things around the house up to his standard, or doesn't, for example, fulfill his sensual desires in the bedroom. He withdraws his compassion on the conditions that she doesn't fill his desires. Is that kind of conditional kindness love? Absolutely not. It's transactional. And so in walks the Buddha. He says that only if you can truly let go of your desires, only when you can truly expect nothing in return from somebody, only then are you able to give compassion from a place that is not transactional. You can hope for something in return, but you can't expect it. You can't grasp to getting that. So desirelessness is a prerequisite to be able to give compassion without having any conditions in the act of giving. In fact, when you let go of your desires, you can be kind to people who treat you terribly because you have already let go of wanting to be treated fairly by them. Think about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, right before his arrest, when he was being approached by a violent mob. He had to consciously let go of his desire, even to be allowed to live, which is the absolute minimum desire to have. He had to do that in order to look at the people doing that to him and love them truly without any conditions. And that is what Buddhism is about. That is why eradicating desire is also the process of eradicating sin. If you follow so far, I hope it's clear why desirelessness is related to unconditional love. However, that still begs a very important question. How can Christians actually incorporate Buddhism in a practical way? A way that complements Christianity without leading them away from the gospel? Here's the thing. Knowing the way you're supposed to love people unconditionally, in concept, is not the same as being able to do it in the heat of passion. And this is a great challenge for a lot of Christians who are very well versed in their scripture. When it comes to being able to act it out in the moment, that's a different story. Oftentimes Christians know that they should take the high road and be unconditionally kind, but in the moment when they're dealing with someone who's getting up in their face and acting nasty and treating them terribly, they can't hold back their anger that wells up inside of them. And what Buddhism says is that you can't stop this anger from arising within you. However, there is a state of mind where you recognize the anger that is building up inside of you. And that part of you that knows that you're angry can look at the anger and let go of it and choose to love unconditionally regardless. So tapping into this state of mind is the real incremental value of Buddhism, being able to do it in the heat of the moment as it's happening. And so today I want to introduce you to one meditation practice that I think you can use in your daily life. But first, let me say something about meditation itself. Beginners in meditation usually believe meditation is something that you do for maybe 10 to 20 minutes a day in a controlled environment, sitting alone, quietly, maybe cross-legged. I'm sorry to say, but that's totally wrong. Meditation really is a mental discipline, and it's a practice of fostering awareness of your thought patterns, and that is meant to be practiced all day long. To practice 10 to 20 minutes a day is just the absolute introduction to being able to incorporate that all throughout your day. That means when you're going about your day, you're constantly calling yourself back to that state of mind where you are aware of the rising emotions inside of you. And so the point I'm trying to make is that if you only meditate when it's absolutely quiet around you, as soon as you actually hit the loud chaos of work or get into traffic, right, when you're dealing with life, you're just going to fold immediately. And so today there is a meditation practice that I would like to show that is called Samatha, and I believe it's a perfect weapon in spiritual warfare. The premise of this meditation is that everyone has two kinds of minds. The first mind is your true self. It is deliberate, intentional, and selfless. This is the mind that knows the gospel and has no desire to sin. The second mind, on the other hand, in Buddhism is called monkey mind. It produces thoughts that are intrusive, impulsive, and not intentional. And what is key to know is that all of your desires come from the second mind. They come from monkey mind. In Christian terms, the second mind produces all the thought that comes from the devil. And don't just take my word for this. Feel for yourself if what I'm saying is true. And so, if you follow along intently with this meditation, then you should see exactly how the two kinds of minds work. So, the first thing is to get into a comfortable position, whether you're lying or sitting or standing. If you need to do that, just pause this video and take a second to do that. Now, listen very carefully to these instructions. Our intention is going to be to explicitly focus on the physical sensation of our breathing. We want to follow the sensation of the diaphragm expanding and contracting. And it's absolutely critical that you understand right now we are setting the intention to only focus on the breathing. So take a deep breath in and focus on the sensation with me. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. If you stop thinking about the sensation of your breathing, bring yourself back and take a deep breath in. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Out. In. Out. And so when you practice this, your mind will naturally wander away, usually just after a few seconds. And this is the point, because our explicit intention, as we stated very clearly, was to focus just on the breathing. And so we can be absolutely certain that every single time our mind wanders away from that breathing, from the sensation, anything that comes has to be an intrusive thought by process of elimination. And so when you see this, you can understand that one mind shoots intrusive thoughts at you in many forms to distract you. What am I going to eat for dinner tonight? Or how long am I supposed to keep meditating for? And so feeling the nature of how these thoughts arise and then fall away is absolutely critical to understanding how desire itself originates. And of course, through desire, you can understand exactly how sin originates. This is the process psychologically through which sinful action works its way into your mind. It starts as a simple desire, material, lustful, or sensual cravings. So anyone who's fasted for Lent should understand this kind of pattern of recognizing this desire to eat that comes up inside of you spontaneously when you have the intention not to eat. You would also know that the key to being unmoved by these cravings is to recognize simply that they're there in the heat of passion. And by remaining in the part of your mind that knows that those thoughts are there, you can consciously choose to detach from those cravings. Now, just consider battling intrusive thoughts like that for 40 days and 40 nights in a desert without a single bite of food. And so you see, the battle of these two minds is your internal spiritual warfare. This is how spiritual warfare actually plays out. The second mind in Christian terms is how the devil tries to get the best of you, tries to play you, at least if you don't know this secret already. And so the devil tempts you to chase desires, to distract you from your true and deliberate mind that wants to follow God and wants to love unconditionally. And so when Jesus said the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak, having these intrusive desires that come from the body is exactly what he meant by weak flesh. However, by also saying, not as I will, but as you will, in the Garden of Gethsemane, he was inherently showing that he had the power to recognize the desires arising in him and consciously let go of them. And so I know that we just practice meditation sitting still, but like I said earlier, the idea is not to just practice for 10 minutes a day and call it a day. Eventually, as you get better at it, you should be practicing this all day long. So all day you should be using mini shamatha meditations to pull yourself out of your burning passion or even fear and anxious thoughts. And with practice, you're not even going to need to breathe to do the meditation anymore. So shamatha is like a life vest that prevents you from drowning in your desires and sinking into sin. And when you master it, you won't be pushed into taking any actions against your will. And this type of self-awareness and control is exactly what many Christians need. The calling of Christians, of course, is not just to refrain from sinful actions, but even more so to combat sinful thoughts in your heart. And you can't do that without the tools to recognize those thoughts as they're arising. And that's exactly what Buddhist meditation is for. And so I hope that you found some value out of this video, whether you decide to incorporate these practices in your life or not. And there are many more teachings from Buddhism that are related to unconditional love, which I will discuss in future videos. And so if you want to see more of this type of content in the future, I would really appreciate a thumbs up. And if you subscribe and hit the bell, it would really support the channel. Thank you for watching.